Hi, I'm Chef Ryan Taylor with Hickory Nash up in Broomfield, Colorado. Welcome to Culinary Cinema with Denver Film. Today we'll be making my version of lamb barbacoa, inspired by Diana Kennedy.
Diana Kennedy's knowledge and passion for Mexican cooking is unsurpassed.
She's a legend.
She is a prophet for Mexican food.
Put it in context. I'm old, okay?
I grew up spending a lot of time eating Mexican food and traveling to Mexico. When I first started cooking, I worked my way up through the ranks, and about the age of 19, I became a sous chef. I've been a chef for about 10 years now. My dad and I opened Hickory Nash about 3 years ago. We call ourselves a modern American meatery. So what that means is we're offering a steakhouse experience, but with a more contemporary twist. We really pride ourselves on our whole animal use, a lot of sustainability. Today, we will do our lamb barbacoa from Colorado. So we have a beautiful lamb leg for breed meat. We're kind of spoiled here in Colorado. We get some of the best lamb out there. So if you don't have a whole lamb leg that you can pick up from the store, just ask your butcher to break it down outside the bone. If you have a baking vessel big enough for such a big lamb leg, go ahead and do that. But otherwise, we're trying to look for about a 3 to 4 pound piece. So traditionally, Mexican barbacoa is a dish from the Hidalgo region of Mexico, which is just north of Mexico City. In this process, what they do is they have these incredible stone pits, giant, and they fill them with maguey leaves. Maguey leaves are basically the agave leaves in which they make for mezcal. And then what happens is they fill it with charcoal. They put lamb, sometimes like orange and lime and that kind of thing, and they cover it with maguey leaves, and it basically roasts and steams for multiple hours. And then afterwards, they take it all out of the pit, and you have this incredible meat that makes the best tacos. So let's start with our marinade. So what we have is the tomatoes and onions that we were grilling earlier. We have ancho chilies. We have guajillo chilies. Just pack your blender up. Go ahead and let's smash it down just a little bit. We have peeled oranges, peeled limes, a little bit of garlic. We have some tamarind paste. It is a little bit sticky, so be careful with that. We have some agave syrup, some salt, and some cinnamon. And since we do not have maguey leaves, we're going to use a little bit of mezcal. This imparts sort of a great smoky flavor. Gives it some of those vegetal and fruit forward notes as well. So let's go ahead and blend this up. So now that we have our barbacoa marinated and blended, I want to talk about our mezcal real quick. So this is a Mezcal Vago Elote. And so what the mezcaleros do is after they make the spirit themselves, they take sweet roasted corn and they infuse it into the mezcal itself. Gives it a little bright sweetness, some vegetal notes as well. For me, I like using this one just because it sort of ties back into us using corn tortillas later. So once we have our marinade, we'll go ahead and season our lamb, just simply with some salt. We want to kind of cover every area on top and bottom. Let this kind of soak in here. Then we'll go ahead and throw it in our cast iron. So before we pour the marinade on top, let's go ahead and reserve about 1 cup. This will make for a great glaze later where we're finishing our lamb. So what we want to do is we're going to pour this over the top here. We'll go ahead and just kind of massage it in there. So we'll go ahead and throw our top on. We have our oven set at 325. And we'll let that go for about 5 hours. So one of the reasons why I really love this dish is because it makes for such a great large style format dish. Invite your friends and family over, crack a couple beers. Nothing brings people together better than really good food, especially Mexican food. So next we're going to go ahead and make our salsa, which is our salsa macha. It's a spicy condiment that goes on top. It should go great with the lamb. So for our salsa macha, let's go ahead and grab a small pot. We're going to start adding our ingredients. So we have chili negras, we have dried chipotles, or chipotle morritas. Since, like I said, this is an oil-based salsa, we have a mixture of canola oil and olive oil. Next we have peanuts, we have gold raisins, a little bit of minced garlic, It's a mixture of cumin and dried oregano and some white sesame seeds. Now that this is all mixed together, let's go ahead and put it on the stove. We're going to put it on about medium heat. And basically all we want to do is just kind of bring all this to a simmer. It should be nice little toasted chilies and bring all the flavors together as well. So one of my biggest tips for those of you cooking at home would be definitely to taste as you go. So season to your liking. I know this may sound like a simple tip, but I see a lot of home cooks and what they kind of end up doing is they just follow a recipe to a T, but they never actually taste it as they're going until we're ready to eat. So for me, especially when dealing with Mexican food, there's a lot of spices, a lot of chilies. You really want to taste as you go. Some people might want something a little bit more spicy than others, a little bit more acid, that kind of thing. One of my biggest influence to kind of learning this technique was through Diana Kennedy's and all of her recipe books. Basically, all of her recipes say salt to taste, which is such a simple but incredible thing for me, is that way you can kind of build it your own. So for me, the funnest part about cooking is sort of learning the classics and then recreating it and doing something your own, just like we're doing today. So now we have our salsa Macha. It's been heated up, it smells really fragrant, a lot of toasted chilies. We'll go ahead and throw this through the food processor. So we'll have our base here that we put all in the pot. We'll go ahead and add some apple cider vinegar and a little bit of salt and pepper as well. We'll go ahead, get this running. We want to blend this until about smooth. Our charred carrot Excabeche. Excabeche is a Spanish word for marinade, usually done with an acidic component to it. For me, it adds a lot of great acidity to our tacos, especially for our lamb. So let's go ahead. We have these great, beautiful baby carrots, some jalapenos. Hit them with just a little bit of oil. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and just char them up real nice. To me, I like grilling carrots because it sort of adds a little smokiness to it, as well as brings out the sweetness. So as those are cooking, we'll go ahead and chop the rest of our vegetables. And ideally for this Excabeche, you want to do this sort of the day before, if you can. If you let it sit overnight, it develops a lot of really great flavors. So we have tomatillos, we'll have a little bit of red onion as well. And a lot of Diana Kennedy's food, she makes very, very simple dishes. Mexican food doesn't need to be super complex. It can be, a lot of spice driven, a lot of chili driven, but also something like this, very simple. So now we have a good amount of char on here. We'll go ahead and add this back to our Excabeche. So we have our little baby carrots. You can find these at the farmer market, great. Otherwise you can also just use regular jumbo carrots. For me, I like using the baby carrots because it adds a little bit better sweetness to it. Hold up to some of those spices, especially from the jalapeno and the chilies. You want to take the seeds out? Great. If you want something a little bit spicier, leave them in. So now that we have sort of our base here, we're going to do some fresh squeezed orange juice, some fresh squeezed lime juice, a little bit of salt and sugar. Toss all those juices together. Make sure that salt and sugar absorbs. Like I said, we'll go ahead and let this sit overnight. So when cooking Mexican food, for me, there's nothing better than fresh corn tortillas. If you can get fresh macha at the Mexican markets, then great. If not, we can use masa harina, which is basically corn flour. So while we wait for our lamb to cook, let's go ahead and make some fresh tortillas. So we have masa harina, a little bit of oil, just some vegetable oil, some salt, and some warm water. You really want to use warm water because what happens is it kind of hydrates that corn flour a little bit better than, say, cold water. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and just mix this with your hands. I like using my hands just because you can at least feel how wet the dough is. Sometimes if it becomes a little bit too dry, add a little bit more water for yourself. Ideally, we'll go ahead and let that sit for about 5 minutes. So while we wait and let that dough kind of sit, go ahead and grab a gallon Ziploc bag. I like using Ziploc bags because it creates a great surface within your tortilla press so that none of the dough sticks. So what I'll go ahead and do is cut off the sides, cut off the top, and we just want to leave the bottom intact. Okay, we'll go ahead and set up our tortilla press. Then what we'll do is we'll grab our masa, roll about a golf ball size dough ball. Okay? Go ahead and put it right in the middle here. Fold it back over. If you really just want to gently press, go ahead and peel our tortilla back. Should be nice and even all around. Okay, right? We'll go ahead and throw it down on our flat top of the grill. For those of you at home, you can use a non-stick pan as well. Looks beautiful. It's been done cooking for about 5 hours now. So go ahead. What we want to do, we want to save all that good braising liquid that's in the bottom. What we like to do is kind of save that as a little consomme or a little broth. Sort of cheers the beginning of the meal. So go ahead and carefully take your hind leg out of there. You want to add just a little bit of extra water. So kind of get all those elements just off the bottom. Makes for a nice, really creamy broth. Go ahead. Save that liquid. And then, what we want to do is with that last 1 cup of marinade that we saved from earlier, we're going to go ahead and carefully put our lamb leg back in our cast iron. And then what we want to do is take that marinade and just sort of glaze the top here. Just sort of brush it all over. What's going to happen is as that kind of bakes, you become very fragrant. Bring out all those chilies and all those spices, kind of creates a crust, gives a lot of flavor to these tacos. So let's go ahead and just put this back in the oven. 400 degrees. We want it nice and hot so it creates that beautiful crust on top. After about 8 minutes or so, we'll go ahead and take our lamb out. What we want to do is add just a little bit of juice back to it. Some of that braising liquid. Kind of steams it out, keeps it nice and juicy. And then we'll go ahead and put all of our garnishes on top. So we have cilantro leaves. We have some mint leaves. Mint goes great with lamb. We have some epazote, which epazote is it's a Mexican herb. To me, it kind of reminds me of sort of a licoricey mint, if you will, almost like eucalyptus. Once again, it also goes great with lamb. We have a locally made goat cheese. This is from Haystack Mountain Creamery. To me, I love lamb and goat cheese. You could also use queso fresco in this sense, but us here, we like to try and use a lot of local product. Go ahead and top it with some radishes. Radishes always add a little good crunch, a little bit of bite as well. And to me, I like to add a little bit of pea shoots. So pea shoots are just coming into season right now. To me, sort of that beginning of the pea flavor, very sweet, kind of complements the spice very, very well. So this is our complete dish. We'll go ahead and serve this with our charred carrot Excabeche, our salsa Macha, and our fresh made corn tortillas. So once again, now that we're all finished with our meal here, I really think this is such a great, great meal that you can make for your friends and family, invite them over, have a couple Modelos, and everyone can just make their own taco. It's such a great taco. So please, join us at Denver Film Society with Culinary Cinema. Please watch Diana Kennedy, Nothing Fancy.
What's life about if you can't make yourself heard?